Day off, where Matthew Broderick looks at the camera and says, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Now, I don't believe they had the NBA in mind when they made that movie, but boy, they sure could have. Think where we were in training camp just last year. Russell Westbrook arriving in Houston via an extremely costly trade, a move requested by James Harden and dressed up by Daryl Morey as the partnership that would finally bring the team back to the promised land. You all remember what we were told, that Russ and James had been friends since they were teenagers growing up here in LA, that their relationship was so rock solid it would overcome any of the issues Harden had experienced with previous co-stars like Chris Paul or Dwight Howard. Yeah. Well, here we are at training camp a year later, and the Rockets basically have their Ferrari up on blocks trying to roll back the mileage odometer. Westbrook asked for and got a ticket out of town. Harden skipped the start of team practices to take a party tour of the American South and Southwest, a trip that landed him in a 6-day COVID protocol. Bueller, Morey's gone. Coach Mike D'Antoni's gone. In fact, when the Rockets take the court tonight for their first preseason game, it will be two completely different former All-Stars leading the way. John Wall and Boogie Cousins, each returning from completely separate but equally major sets of injuries. It's unfortunate, frankly, that what should be a triumphant moment for each of them has been just a bit swallowed up by all the controversy surrounding Harden. But regardless, it's happening, and they both sound pretty hyped. Take a look, starting with Wall. He slid into his press conference yesterday in those trademark shades. Hey, John's got some Ferris in him, too, and here's what he had to say.
There's going to be a lot of anxiousness and a lot of excitement to step on that floor and when the jump ball goes up. But once the ball touches my hands one time, it's over with.
I'm excited, man. It's been a long road for me. So this is what I worked for, to be able to get back on the floor and play the game I enjoy to play. And I'm super excited. I've said it time and time again. I'm grateful to be in this position. I know what it feels like to be on the other end of things, and I know it's more than possible to be on those other end of things any day.
Indeed. And now how will either one of them look tonight? I'm not expecting that much. I mean, one, it's a preseason game. Two, as we saw watching Paul George and Gordon Hayward in their first years back from major injuries, it takes a while before a player looks like his old self. And with Wall in particular, you can look at the history of guards coming back from Achilles injuries. Now, some of these guys are older than John, but to say that production drops, it'd be an understatement, right? Still, the video we've seen of Wall in practices and open runs these past months, it's encouraging. His speed may be slightly diminished, but he's apparently still got the hops. He's also pretty obviously amped to be playing with Boogie. And there are some real parallels here, too. Like Russ and Harden, Wall and Boogie go way back to when they were teenagers, even before they each played at Kentucky. But there's also something deeper they both share, and you could hear it in those sound bites, and you will feel it when they take the court tonight. After such grueling journeys back from injuries, both of these guys have a pretty deep appreciation now of just how special it is to be a pro basketball player. They both intend to, yes, stop and take a look around tonight so they don't miss the moment. After all, life in the NBA sure does move pretty fast. Paul, what are your expectations for John Wall this season in Houston?
Well, I expect him to really, I see a smile on his face. You know, when you sit out so long and you have a chance to come back, I expect that. But as far as playing-wise, I expect him to be solid. Do I expect him to be an all-star in the first year? No, not really, because it's tough coming off the injuries and missing 2 years playing in a league where players continue to get younger, players continue to get better. And so as long as he's out there playing with a smile on his face, and for John Wall to be John Wall, though, for him to have that smile, I think James Harden is going to have to change the way he plays. For Boogie to be happy on the court, James Harden is going to have to change the way he plays. But I just want to see him out there smiling, being a competitive John Wall, and happy to be back there on the court.
One thing you got to remember about John Wall is he's really been injured 3 of the last 4 years. Dating back to 3 years ago, he had double knee surgery after that season. I remember him telling me at the time he could barely jump over a phone book. He got that knee surgery, and he was so good after that double knee surgery that the Wizards gave him the Supermax contract. And then before he tore his Achilles, remember, he had had surgery to remove bone spurs out of his heel, which was dramatically affecting him. So we just frankly haven't seen John Wall healthy almost at all for the entire one-time and presidential term. So what I really want to see is, where is John Wall healthy? Is he healthy? Because don't forget, it's not just the Achilles he's recovering from. It's all these bone spurs. And he thinks that's a good thing, Rachel. He's saying, not only is my Achilles healthy, but those bone spurs are gone and my knees are healthy. Just you watch. Let's do it.
Brian, there's a lot of people in this country who'd like to forget about the last 4 years. We just put up John's numbers and sort of who he relates to in NBA history. When he's on, I'm sorry. I mean, the level of a problem that John Wall is ridiculous. I don't know if we can put the graphic up again. The guys that he's in the conversation with is insane, right? Take a look at this list. Obviously, Oscar Robertson goes way above and beyond everyone. But I just think that he can really be something if the health comes back. Brian, do you think there's any chemistry or dynamic issue at the fact that James Harden has not been in any of these practices? John Wall and Boogie have been going through. And you heard Paul say, hey, James is going to have to adjust his style of play. Well, not only is he going to have to adjust, but these guys will already be in sort of a rhythm before he even gets there.
Well, look, John has been given a very difficult hand here. First off, the Wizards have essentially said, we don't want your contract so bad that we're going to attach a first-round pick to you. Now, look, no one's going to cry for him. He's making $40 million a year. But when that happens to you in your career, it basically means the team doesn't believe in you anymore. And so that's happened. Then he gets to Houston, where he openly has said, hey, I talked to James Harden. He was excited about playing with me. He shows up ready to go. And then Harden doesn't show up. And Harden either was not being honest with him or changed his mind. So John Wall's been given just a very difficult hand. But I will say this. The expectations are at the point where he can only go up. And that actually, in a strange way, puts him in a good position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, he hasn't played in so long. You know, he only can go up. But, you know, based on the company, when you see the type of guard that John Wall is, can he get back to that level? You know, what we got to understand is when you have Achilles and knee issues, that puts years on your career. That puts years on your life. So, you know, he's a certain age now. You probably add 2 more years to that. So he's probably going to be a little slowed down, especially when you get deeper into the season. 60, 70 games. But I just want to see him happy out there. I want him to be solid. And we know he won't be all-star this year. But I'm not saying that's not a position or a place he can't get to in the following year or a year after, because he's such a great athlete and he has such a great drive to be great in this league.
Amen. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing both of those guys get out on the court tonight. John Wall, Boogie Cousins. It has been quite a journey you have been on these past few years. Congratulations on getting back. All right, coming up, we will take a deep dive into the Portland Trail Blazers. Added some great pieces over the offseason. Are they legit contenders? I do want to spotlight the artist who painted LeBron's cover for Time. His name is Tyler Gordon from San Jose. He's 14 years old. On his Twitter bio, he says that he is partially deaf. He has a stutter and he expresses himself through art. And he certainly is expressing himself well there. LeBron gave him a great shout out on Twitter last night. They're really impressive and cool, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Man, real talented. Really, really talented.
How cool is that?
I like it.
You're on the cover of Time magazine via LeBron James. Pretty good for a teenager. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside New York Times bestselling author Brian Windhorst. I feel like I'm alongside them. Y'all loom so large in my life. And 2008 NBA Finals MVP Paul Pierce. And Brian, how would you introduce him?
He's a champ. He said so many people called him champ in 2008. He forgot his first name. One of the great quotes of all time. Love it.
There you go. Paul Pierce, otherwise known for the rest of the hour as Champ. Coming up on this show, Kyrie doubling down on his media blackout after getting hit with a $25,000 fine for himself and his franchise. We'll show you his reaction in a moment. First, though, the NBA's preseason slate of games tips off tonight, people. It's very exciting for all of us. But with only 11 days left till opening night, still so many questions and concerns heading into the most unconventional season in the 75-year history of the association. On Thursday, the U.S. set a record for COVID-19 related fatalities for the second day in a row, surpassing 3,300 deaths. There were also around 220,000 new cases reported yesterday in this country. There's some light at the end of the tunnel thanks to vaccines that are being developed and already administered in other countries. Yesterday, an FDA panel granted emergency use authorization for a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer and a German partner company. We could see the first COVID vaccinations in America by early next week. Now, Brian, you wrote about how the NBA is crafting policy to manage widespread use of COVID vaccines. What are some of the biggest question marks at this point? Because it is such a complex issue.
Yeah, this is another unprecedented challenge for the NBA to deal with. Just based on the timing of everything, Rachel, the NBA has got a good chance to be the first pro league to try to have to deal with a policy across its player population. We don't know when that might be available. The NBA was very clear in me talking to them. They're not looking to jump the line. They realize